You know, as bad as Mark Meadows is, there's a new revelation, some new reporting about what Mark Meadows knew in the days before January 6th that makes it pretty clear he is much worse than we thought. Let's talk about that, because justice matters. Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. So as tempted as I am to talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene's perjury palooza, I think I'm going to leave that story for another day, because there's a far more dangerous and indeed deadly revelation that just broke about Mark Meadows. And by the way, for those of you scoring at home, today is day 130 of the Mark Meadows indictment watch. And as we await Meadows' indictment for the crime he inarguably committed, contempt of Congress, here's the new reporting about Meadows. This from ABC News. Headline: Official: Meadows had been warned of possible January 6th violence. And that story begins. A former White House official told the House committee investigating the Capitol riot that President Donald Trump's chief of staff, Mark Meadows, had been advised of intelligence reports showing the potential for violence, according to just released transcripts. Cassidy Hutchinson, a special assistant in the Trump White House, told the committee there were concerns brought forward to Meadows before the storming of the Capitol on January 6, 2021, but it was unclear what Meadows did with that information. So it's unclear what Mark Meadows did with that information, with those intelligence reports about likely violence on January 6th at the U.S. Capitol. Unclear what Meadows did. We know what Meadows didn't do. Meadows was serving at the time in the highest echelons of the executive branch of our federal government, chief of staff to the President of the United States, with information about possible violence in the days to come at the U.S. Capitol during the certification of Joe Biden's presidential win. We know what Mark Meadows and Donald Trump didn't do. They didn't deploy adequate law enforcement resources for the people at the U.S. Capitol to protect themselves, to repel the attack. Now, maybe Mark Meadows, in the days leading up to January 6th, didn't know precisely how vigorously, how directly Donald Trump would encourage that attack, would incite that attack, how he would launch that attack on the Capitol, telling his angry mob, march down to the Capitol and fight like hell, or you won't have a country anymore. They stole your vote. Now go down there and stop it. But what we do know is Donald Trump and Mark Meadows' executive branch deprived the U.S. Capitol of the following law enforcement agencies and assets: the FBI, the DEA, the ATF, the Park Police, the U.S. Marshal Service, DHS, the Federal Bureau of Prisons Riot Squad. And get this, friends, the BOP Riot Squad was deployed the summer before, along with all other kinds of federal law enforcement agencies and resources deployed to the Black Lives Matter protests in Washington, D.C. Virtually every federal law enforcement agency known to man, and some unknown to man, some who were not wearing badges or insignia or any unit or agency identification, oh, they were all deployed to the BLM protests. None of them were deployed by Donald Trump, with Mark Meadows having intelligence reports about likely violence at the Capitol on January 6th. None of them were deployed to protect the people in the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. The only law enforcement agencies that were at the Capitol on January 6th were the Capitol Police, and that is the only federal government law enforcement agency under the control of Congress, under the control of the legislative branch. All of those other federal government law enforcement agencies I listed, they're all under the control of Donald Trump, of the executive branch. So the only ones at the Capitol to defend the Capitol that day were the Capitol Police and the Metropolitan Police Department, MPD, the local DC city cops, and that's an agency under the control of the mayor of the District of Columbia. And the Capitol Police and the MPD officers took a beating that day. They were easily and violently overrun by Donald Trump's angry mob because Donald Trump, Mark Meadows, and others in Donald Trump's administration deprived the Capitol of the federal law enforcement forces it needed to defend itself. And that, friends, leads to one pretty compelling inference. We can maybe even call it the only reasonable conclusion: that Donald Trump and Mark Meadows wanted the Capitol to be taken. That Donald Trump and Mark Meadows wanted the angry mob to stop the certification of Joe Biden's win. So given all that, it seems like the only logical reason DOJ is holding off indicting Mark Meadows — did I mention we're on day 130 of the Mark Meadows indictment watch? The only logical reason DOJ is holding off is because they're investigating and intend to indict all of the crimes Mark Meadows committed against the United States, against we the people, against the folks in the Capitol that day that he and Trump deprived of the federal law enforcement forces necessary to protect them. DOJ must be intending to indict him for all of his crimes at the same time, rather than just a standalone contempt of Congress case. That's the only thing that makes sense to this old prosecutor. Because to this old prosecutor, and I know to you all as well, justice matters. Friends, as always, please stay safe, please stay tuned, and I look forward to talking with you all again tomorrow.